Okay, welcome to the Bradley and Mike Sports Scene. This is the third episode of our show. Hopefully, it'll be a long-running show. My name is Mike Smith, and with me is Bradley Hargis. Bradley, welcome to the telecast.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, WAT. Thank you, VTC Fiber. Thank you, everybody, for being involved, especially our viewers, for allowing us to have a few minutes with you to talk about sports going on around the area and the country.
Of course, many of our sponsors, Responsible Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, Jason Lewis Automotive, which I bought a car from a couple of years ago and actually runs pretty good. And of course, among other things, and of course, again, we're going to talk about sports, whatever sports that you might be interested in: baseball, football, basketball, tiddlywinks, chess, if that's a sport. That's what we'll discuss. But first thing we're going to do, we're going to discuss the high school football season, the local scene. We're into the third week of the football season, and for Bledsoe County, well, it's been a rough start. 1-1, losing to Sequatchie County in the opener at Dunlap, and basically overcoming turnovers and the defense, which we credit very highly in the 14-13 win over Cumberland County in overtime Friday night, on a very hot Friday night at James T. Warden Field. And of course, Bledsoe County will be at Sail Creek this Friday for a Labor Day weekend game, and also we'll be hosting York in the next couple of weeks in the region opener. Bradley, we want to talk about the season here, and of course we try to find some what we might call the good, the bad, and the ugly. What is the good?
Well, the good is the players not giving up.
Defense, you might say.
Defense is playing lights out. They're getting after the ball. That's great. Even the offense, when they make a mistake, they don't quit. They don't quit. They keep on trying to play, keep on trying to respond, and even if they're down, they keep playing hard. That's good. That's a good part.
The bad is we don't have much depth. Not on offense, anyway.
Our first team, aside from the turnovers, but we'll get to the ugly in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
The first team on defense and offense, and there's a couple of reserves in the backfield that come in, and the defensive crew are pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Only problem is when you got the same 11 to 15 kids that are playing both ways,
mm-hmm.
and that are having to play all four quarters, it's going to take its toll.
Mm-hmm.
You start seeing even more mistakes and more mistakes and more mistakes, and it's not any fault of the coaches, not any fault of the players. It's just we don't have any depth right now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have much experience. We had a good, solid graduating class. We've got a few seniors right now, but the bright spot, I guess you might put this back with the good, is we've got some freshmen and sophomores who are stepping up
mm-hmm.
on the offensive side of the ball and really making themselves a name here in this town and for the team. Zane Walker's one of them.
Right.
Number 6,
mm-hmm.
sophomore, an excellent runner. Justin Melton, number 1, freshman, playing last week, had a lot of good runs. And of course, you have Austin Raines in the backfield as well, who's still, I think he's a sophomore, maybe a junior.
Uh-huh.
And then you've got Sam Agee, who's a senior. So you've got talent, but again, the depth across the front on the offensive line and the defensive front is just not there.
Now the ugly, which is turnovers.
The ugly's got to be the turnovers.
7 turnovers in 2 games, I believe.
Oh, mental mistakes. I mean, and there's not really much you can do. You're watching some of the we ripped the game the other night, and Cumberland County is not an outstanding football team by any means, and they're not bad, but they're not a Maryville or an Alcoa.
Yeah.
But their tackling, you can see that they've listened to the coaches. The tackling that they did, they put a helmet on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got their head across. If they were going this way, they got the head across, helmet on the ball. If they're going the other way, head across, helmet on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And there were several, at least out of the 4 turnovers in the first half last week, at least 2 of them were well-placed hits on the football.
Yeah.
I always say on defense, tackle the football.
Right.
Tackle the football.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tackle the player, tackle the football. Because if you get that, you're going to get the player.
Absolutely.
And there were just a couple of really well-placed hits, ball popped loose.
Yep.
And of course, the snap over his head, that was a mental mistake. And then there was, interception thrown. I mean, there just mental mistakes like that. That's the ugly.
Don't feel when you got 3 or 4 opposing players around you.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. And we're lucky the defense held those miscues to 7 points. They actually returned one for a score, but it was called back because of penalties against Cumberland County.
Well, going into the fourth quarter, the only points on the board were scored by Cumberland's defense. When we, snapped the ball and covered it in the end zone.
That was in the first quarter.
The first quarter. But going into the fourth, it was 7-0.
Right. It was 7-7. It was 7-7.
We scored in the third.
We scored in the third.
Okay.
It was 7-7. Then it went to overtime, and then of course the kicker on that, and I use the term kicker, was they missed that extra point in overtime, and that was the distance. Now, so I said Bledsoe scores and kicks that extra point to win the game, and that's what they did. Now, remember, it doesn't get any easier this season. Doesn't get any easier. You got Sell Creek, which is a surprising 2-0.
Well, if you look at Sell Creek's history, I mean, they started first game of varsity 2013, 0-10. 2014, 0-10. Didn't win their first game to 2015. They were 2-8. Every year they've improved, minus a couple.
Yeah.
But from 2019 on. Or 2018 on, they made the playoffs. Of course, they were playing in a smaller region, smaller district. So if you win, basically the situation was if you won one game in the region, you went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, they went to the playoffs in 2018 with a 2-8 record.
Yeah.
You had 2019, they were 4-7. 2020 4-7. They were 5-6 last year. Finished the season basically right at 500. They were 5-5 and lost in the playoff game. And last year they were 4-6 going into the playoff game. So they've not. I mean, they've improved.
Yeah.
They're not going to be a pushover like most people are kind of thinking in the back of their mind. I'm like, no, you better not be selling them short, because a team like Sell Creek that has not had. They've had success, but not huge success.
They're looking for a statement win.
They're looking for something, yes, to take their program and their morale to the next level, and a win over Bledsoe would probably do that.
Because that we're the big boys. We're the big boys.
The first few years they wouldn't play us because of the so different as far as the size and the capabilities.
Yeah.
Because Bledsoe was winning region titles after region title.
Yeah.
Back at that time when they first came up. So it's going to be an interesting football game. And playing at Sell Creek, I was kind of hopeful that they would still be playing at Finley. It'd be kind of neat to go play.
I would have loved to go on to Finley, to be honest with you.
But no, they're playing at Sell Creek now, and so it's going to be interesting to see what happens Friday night.
Of course, the next week afterwards, you got York Institute coming to Pikeville, and that is a region opener. Now, that's due to the fact that the TSSAA and I think the TSSAA, what it is, they have this dartboard, and they throw darts. Oh, Bledsoe's going to play this guy, or Bledsoe's going to play that guy.
Yeah.
And I asked myself, what have these people been drinking?
When your region schedule, I mean, Oneida, York, which I can kind of understand York, it's a little closer. Wartburg, Tellico Plains, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is.
Why in the world? And you got Marion County that's having to play over in Middle Tennessee when they could have been with us.
Playing Forest.
And when Oneida could have been in the upper Eastern Division, which is closer for them, and we could have had Monterey.
Yeah.
Which geographically makes more sense, but I have no idea what the TSSAA is thinking about.
Yeah.
And one thing they did this year, as we were talking about why we played Sequatchie County first, what the TSSAA said, we're going to schedule the region schedule for you, and they did that because they might be playing some games on Thursday night because of the referee official shortage. So when they scheduled our region schedule, the third Friday in October, we couldn't play. We couldn't play Sequatchie County because they had Sequatchie's region games down there. They couldn't change it, so the only option that we had was to play in the first game to get both teams in.
technically we could have played them on October 13th, but that's an off week for us.
Yeah.
And you cannot play like 9 straight games in a row. You got and have an off week in your first week that you have regular season. So but remember last year when I think it was Meigs County, the COVID, we had to cancel that game.
That was in 2021. Yes.
Right, and what happened is that they wanted us to drop the Sequatchie County contest. Ain't going to happen.
No, that was the suggestion. The only week they were willing to play, and you can be for who you want to be for.
Yeah.
You can support who you want to support. But the bottom line is, we tried to reschedule against Meigs County because we wanted to play them. It was a region game, and we wanted to get our shot at them. They wanted to get their shot at us. But the deal was, they said the only game that we're willing to sacrifice is the week of this specific Friday, which just happened to be Bledsoe Sequatchie.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way in the world that Bledsoe or Sequatchie is going to drop that game, because the gate alone for the home team is going to be outstanding,
humongous.
And so the concessions are. I mean, you're going to lose a lot of money, and there is no way that we would have done that.
I mean, you look at it as sort of like it's a pride game. It's sort of like you go in there, and this is the pride game. You look a couple of weeks ago when we were at Dunlap. Those sides were nearly sold out. I mean, about 95% sold out, and that reminds me so much about how important that game was to both sides. They had the white out. Now they're going to have the neon game next, and they're going to have the Adam Sandler night. Oh Lord, I bet you're going to dress up as a water boy.
I thought about it. I thought about getting me a Bobby Boucher jersey and wearing it into the
wear the water thing. You like the special anything?
All I know is if there's a lot of people dressed up as Bobby Boucher for that game, they better be chanting "Mud Dogs."
They better be saying, "Look, Mama, the devil's on TV." And I always got a kick out of that. I always got a kick out of that. Or dressed up, what was like that guy with the cap, screaming his head off or something like that. And we don't want to
remember who it was.
We don't want to encourage them too strongly on that. But anyway, Bobby Boucher, or have guys go down and going, sort of like that. There's a theme this week for every game this season. You got of course, like I said, the Adam Sandler night. You have the neon night. We already had the luau night. You had the white out night, and then you have like the camel night. I think at Tellico Plains this year. But York's going to be a tough team to go up against.
As far as who's in our region this year, York and us are the teams to beat. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, not trying to look past Shell Creek this Friday, but on September 8th, when we play York at York, the winner of that one could very well
lock up the region.
Win the region at that time. Again, nothing against Wartburg and Tellico and Polk and Oneida, but Oneida's one of those sleeper teams, and Polk County's one of those sleeper teams, that can come up and surprise you. I don't see that from Tellico, and I don't see that from Wartburg. But I do see a very solid offense and defensive front for the York Dragons in Jamestown, and I also see a fairly decent report from what I've read on what Oneida has.
Yeah.
So hopefully by after this week, maybe we can get a big win over Shell Creek.
Yeah.
We can work all the bugs out, find out how to hold on to the football, and make better decisions. And maybe some of those underclassmen who have stepped up and say, hey, you know what, I may not be first string, but I can play second, and I can help somebody get a rest every now and then. So that's what it takes. So hopefully they'll work the bugs out.
About 5 years ago, we were at Oneida doing a game out there, and they told you a story how Oneida got its Tennessee Orange shirt, because they wear Tennessee Orange. And I want you to tell it, Bradley.
Go ahead, you start.
No. I want you to tell it. I haven't done the Arkansas bit yet.
It was a former coach that was an assistant at Tennessee, correct?
Right.
And basically, when Oneida started playing football, Tennessee was throwing out some uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
And when he found that out, he got those uniforms, and Oneida started wearing orange and white. And they've been orange and white ever since.
Yeah.
So when you say they're wearing Tennessee orange, they're wearing
Tennessee orange.
literally wearing Tennessee orange. Of course, they've got New Jersey since then.
Yeah.
But they still kept the correct color.
Orange.
Yes, the paint scale of the orange.
Orange motif.
Yeah.
It's the interesting thing about it is that there are a lot of teams that last year were all powerful in high school football are not so. You look at Tyner, 0-2. They've been beat down rather severely. You never hear that from a Tyner team much.
Well, now I'm not a pro Tyner guy because I mean we've always had a hard time beating them. Beat them one time.
Yeah.
Some people say two. I've only heard of one. I've only know of one. But anyhow, regardless of that, Tyner has always been a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
But rarity you're going to find from me, I'm going to defend them.
Yeah.
The last two games they've played against bigger schools.
Yeah, Red Bank.
They've played against Red Bank, who's a bigger school. Well, I think they're 3A.
Yeah.
But still, Red Bank is a bigger school,
mm-hmm.
more talent depth. And then they played Bradley Central, which is 2 divisions above them. Bradley is 5A.
Yeah.
So they are that's like us. That'd be like us playing Alcoa. Yeah, because it's such a vast difference in size and speed and depth, and I mean even the number on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And Bradley Central, laid the wood to them Friday night.
Well, lucky Tyner's not playing Alcoa this year.
Yeah.
They did that. So I suppose that spares them a bit on that. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about the about the Little Blue, Pee Wee and Weepies, and we're going to talk about them and about what they have done for the high school ranks and that sort of thing. Again, of course, you're watching the Bradley and Mike sports scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs, so what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Of course, we've just finished talking about the high school football scene. Now we're going to go down a little bit to what known as the Weepies, the Pee Wees, and the Little Blue, which is basically if you use the term like in Major League Baseball, sort of like the farm system for high school football. And Bradley, I know you coached the Weepies and the Pee Wees and the Little Blue, and I've seen a couple of games. that they have played, and really, it's more or less sort of teach the fundamentals.
It really is. I mean, if you're not really going to get. It's so funny because you get the wee peas out there, and that's the little ones.
Yeah.
The smallest, and you can't really tell them, block down over here or pull over here.
Mm-hmm.
No, the coaches, I get so tickled because they have to pick them up and set them right there and say, go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Set them right. Go.
I've seen them go that way,
and I get tickled. And then, but you get into the pee-wees, which is the step above wee peas, and you might get some of those kids that start listening and start learning. With your junior level, they should start learning by then.
Mm-hmm.
They should know the fundamentals. Your senior level, you should be refining those skills.
Yeah.
And then you get into middle school, and that's when you really start seeing the improvement. Because when you get to high school is when you finally put it to work. But yeah, the farm system, like you described it as, that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Every successful football program in the state of Tennessee and in surrounding areas, even the nation, have what we call a feeder program.
Right.
And that's the youth
Yeah.
football. And yes, I was privileged to coach a few years with Little Blue, the seniors one year and the juniors the other years. I really, really loved that. I loved getting to know the players, and that's why it's kind of sentimental to me, because a lot of the players that have graduated past couple years and some that are playing right now, I coached.
Mm-hmm.
And Little Blue.
Yeah.
And it's on the high school level. So seeing them out there performing is a great thing. But while I've got a chance here, being involved in Little Blue,
Yeah.
if you're not involved in Little Blue,
Yeah.
like you're not a board member, you're not a coach,
Yeah.
you're not a volunteer, then you have no idea what those volunteers go through.
Yeah. I mean.
We had to raise all the money to get everything started back, because when I went in, my friend Justin Thomas was the president at the time, and he called me and said, hey, we need somebody to help raise money. You're good at talking to people, so can you help us? And I said, well, I can try. So I got in there and helped, and we all worked together. We had a pretty successful sponsorship year that year, and we finally were able to get to the point that we started in the black and ended in the black. And that's what I wanted to do. Get to that point to have stability. And you had so many people, parents, other people who come to watch the games, that would have so many complaints about what we were or were not doing. But none of those people wanted to volunteer.
No.
And again, I'm not trying to be mean-spirited, but cut them some slack. The coaches, I never got paid to be a coach for Little Blue. I never got paid to be on the board, neither did the other volunteers. It's a volunteer organization.
Absolutely.
And your children who are playing, they're volunteering to play. They had the option, to not play or to play, but they wanted to play, and now you're out there doing it. So let the coaches coach.
Yeah.
Let the board make the decisions that's for the betterment, not just of one child, but for the entire program. Mm-hmm. Be patient with them.
Right.
And instead of complaining about something, why not get involved? If you see that there's something lacking, why not raise your hand and say, hey, I see this as an issue. What can I do to help?
Yeah.
What can I do to help? Mm-hmm. And that was one of those unnerving and discouraging things for me when I was involved with Little Blue, were the naysayers.
Yeah.
Were the ones that had a problem with everything. And it's no different now. Right. I still have good friends that are involved, and they tell me the horror stories of what has happened at practices and the games, and I'm just like, I get it.
Let the kids be kids.
I've been there.
Let the kids be kids. The thing about it is that, look, if you want to go see something that's just good, clean fun, I mean, just go down there and watch kids. Be kids. These young men, young boys, be kids. To cheerleaders, everything. Go watch them. A couple bucks. Go in there, pay a couple of bucks, and get you a hot dog and a Coke, and watch and just have fun. I mean, it's just nothing. These parents don't have to do it. these parents get their kids down there. They get them ready. They dress them. They make sure that they're in the uniforms and all that. Just make sure it's fun, because that's what it is. You know, you and I have been in a situation where I've had people come up to me, want me to push a player or push somebody and that sort of thing. And to, you know, be honest, I have to say I don't want to do this, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to push the program overall. Same as you. Push the program overall. That's why we do radio. That's why we do radio. That's why we're doing this program. Is we want to push the sports scene here in Bledsoe County, no matter what sport it is. And you let these kids have fun. Let these little kids have fun, because, you know, I've seen situations where the kids don't want to play anymore because basically the parents are acting
Yeah, and it's not
like children.
that the parents, you have to understand that when I was coaching, and even before I was even involved, and after I was even involved now, every volunteer that volunteers to coach has a different personality. Some are soft-spoken.
Yeah.
Others have a loud booming voice.
Yeah.
Others, you know, demand a lot from their players. Others don't care what they do.
Yeah.
You know, and that you just have some that are just nonchalant, and some that are like, no, you're going to have to learn how to do this. You know, and I get it. There's a fine line.
Yeah.
But let the coaches coach.
Yeah.
You know, and if your child has, you know, is continuing to make the same mistake, they're trying to teach them not to do that. And if they're telling them over and over and over and over, and it's not getting done, and they take that child out and put somebody else in there, the parents don't need to be getting mad.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to learn to do what you're told to
That's
do
right.
there. And it's the same thing with high school.
Right.
If you get into high school or middle school, even college, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, and you're told over and over and over, and you've been given chances, no matter if somebody's yelled at you, or somebody's politely told you, or somebody's even sent you a message and said, hey, you need to straighten your act up. You know, if they don't do it,
What can you do?
there's nothing you can do.
You know, Eddie Robinson, the legendary coach at Grambling University, he said it best. I saw this on Facebook the other day. And he said, the best tool that a coach can teach a player is to love them. And I love my players. If you hate those players, you are not going to get their attention. They're not going to do anything you want them to do, no matter what. You have to love them.
Yeah.
And that is the one indispensable tool in a coach's coaching.
And it should be noted. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay.
But with that love comes discipline.
Right, but you got to be fair.
You got to be
love
fair, and you got to be across the board. You got to love them, and you got to have discipline when they do something wrong. You got to teach them. You know, I don't think it's appropriate to get down in a wee pea or Pee Wee's face and scream at him.
Yeah, because you don't do that to a little kid.
If he drops the ball or something like that, or misses the block, you know, big deal. But you know, if a coach is like, "Hey, I told you to do this. You need to be doing that," then that's a coach being a coach.
Just you show up, but be fair. You showed me something during the break, and is that Baylor School went to Dublin, Ireland to play. What is it? Camden, New Jersey High School.
They played Seton Hall, New Jersey, last Friday night in Dublin, Ireland. They won. Tennessee was represented in Dublin, Ireland. They won 42-7. But I have never, in my lifetime, and probably will I ever hear of it again, of a high school team playing at a neutral site outside the country. That's just, I mean, unheard of. It's hard for us to wrap our mind around playing an Alabama school or a North Carolina school. You know, Murphy, North Carolina is right there by Benton, in the far east corner, or far west corner of North Carolina, and they've played Marion County and some teams over this way before. Oneida plays a lot of Kentucky teams because they're right there on the line. You know, Nashville teams have been playing Kentucky teams, and we say, well, that's, you know, I hate that you have to do that, but
we played Faith Baptist Academy, remember, out of Alabama?
Yeah.
Near Huntsville, Alabama, 1 year. And you remember, and the thing about it is that they came in there, and they had 29 players. And I said, is that your offense or defense? He said, that's the team. 29 players. and we whipped them. We whipped them like a rug, beat them like a rug.
Yeah, I think they were just starting.
They were just starting.
They-
I think they just took Bledsoe because
They actually had to, that season, if I remember correctly, they had to forfeit like 3 or 4 games
Yeah.
because of injuries and things like that, and they didn't have enough at one time, actually 2 or 3 times during the season, to field a team of 11 players.
I think
And-
Jason Real sort of called mercy on them a
Yeah,
little bit.
I
that's
think
what he
you're
did.
right.
But the interesting thing, of course, of course, you had Navy and Notre Dame playing in Ireland
hmm
this week. I don't remember who won, but anyway, but that was an interesting game. Navy and Notre Dame in Ireland. Notre Dame, I understand, it's Irish, fighting Irish, that sort of thing. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk college football, and of course the big boys get to play this weekend. Of course, the college football has already started, but last weekend. But we'll discuss some of the games last weekend, and we'll discuss what's the upcoming game, including Tennessee's big opener at Nashville against Virginia. Again, as you're watching the Bradley and Mike Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative.
Might want to mention before the break, Mike,
Yeah.
before we go, we're talking about Little Blue. They play at South Grundy this Saturday. That's Tracy City. Those who would like to go support the Little Blue Warriors at all levels, they're at the old Grundy County High School in
yeah.
Tracy City. That's where South Grundy plays their games. So get over there and support. Don't complain. Support. Get in there and volunteer. Be involved, and let's make this program something that we can build our high school and middle school program with. I'm off my soapbox now.
Oh, okay. Well, soapbox. We got a big soapbox for you. But anyway, you're listening to the Mike Bradley and Mike Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs, so what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Okay, everybody, we are back, and we're going to go to the college football scene. Of course, college football actually started last weekend with a number of smaller schools playing, but of course, one SEC school team did play after a weather delay. Vanderbilt hosted Hawaii out of Honolulu, and then probably that'd be a great place to go play football anytime, Honolulu. But of course, it was in Nashville, and they had a bit of a weather delay and didn't start till after 8 p.m. local time. But Vandy, didn't find it easy as they did last year, which was 63-10. It ended up 35-28 Vanderbilt, as Hawaii really gave the Commodores a game in Clark Lee's third season as the Commodore head man. Obviously, Vanderbilt, 97-yard kickoff return by Vanderbilt was the highlight of that game. Vanderbilt, if you look at the past 15 years for Vanderbilt, they've actually been sort of very successful. They beat Tennessee 5 times. They actually beat the big 3 in the SEC East, Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee in the same year. Won back-to-back 9-game seasons, 2012 and 2013. And they won 2 SEC games last year, which they hadn't done in a while, against 19th ranked Kentucky at Lexington and Florida at Nashville. Vanderbilt, they're sort of a little bit of a enigma. You know, they're on one hand they look like they're world beaters. On the other hand, they look like Harvard in the way they play.
Yeah.
And what's your take on Vanderbilt? I mean, I think, did you watch that game? Where
Vanderbilt had an outstanding first quarter against Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
If they had played all 4 quarters like that, then it would have been another 63-10 deal. But man, it was a tale of 2 halves. The second half, Hawaii just kind of come back out swinging, and Vandy was on their heels and scraped out a 35-28 win. But they are SEC caliber teams. You can't ever sell them short.
They only had 28,000 fans in the stands. That's not due to the fact lack of attendance. It's basically because they're what they did is they're expanding the stadium. And the thing about it is, the funny thing is that the visitors' dressing room was under a tent.
They didn't start doing this right after the season last year. They waited till well into the year to demolish and start building.
I think it was due to weather problems and other such things going on, and I think that's the reason why they started late. But they're going to put like a sort of like a skyboxes at the north end of the stadium, and they're going to put some other stuff in there. Vandy has not expanded that stadium since they demolished it in 1980 with old Dudley Field to put new stands in. So it's really the smallest stadium in the Southeastern Conference. Even Mississippi State has expanded their stadium, which is the 50,000 league. But Vandy's not going to win the SEC as long as they think they're kind of be Harvard 6 days a week and Alabama on 7 days. But of course, other schools SEC, Tennessee, the Volunteers, ranked number 10 in preseason, will face off against Virginia in Nashville not at Vanderbilt, but at the Titan Stadium, which is a whole lot bigger. They probably should have moved that Vandy-Hawaii game to the Titan Stadium. That would have been better for them. But Tennessee's favored by 24 points in that game. And obviously, the last time these 2 teams met was in the 1991 Sugar Bowl, where Tennessee came back from 16-0 to win 23-22. I'm going to run a little trivia for you on that. Okay, what Tennessee coach played in that Sugar Bowl game on what team and on what team?
1991
Sugar Bowl. What future Tennessee coach played in that game and on what team?
I don't know.
Derek Dooley. He played on the Virginia team as an offensive lineman. I didn't know this until Derek Dooley played his football at Virginia. That's where he played his college football at.
Wow.
Virginia, well, they didn't have a good season last year. I think they won 3 games. Tennessee, of course, had a great season, winning 11. Tennessee, of course, has some questions to answer. Quarterback, running backs, that sort of thing. Obviously, that's going to be a concern. What are your concerns on that game Saturday? That's going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff.
My concerns are really 2 things. First, on the defensive secondary. Are we going to have an improvement? Because, Tennessee was scoring like crazy last year. The other teams were too.
Yeah.
When they played us, so like, if you're going to have an outstanding offense, you need to have it, at least a, above average defense to kind of compensate and let you get comfortable with the lead. But no, look at the Alabama game.
Yeah.
It went all the way down to the wire.
Well, Tennessee looked like they were going to win it easy. They were 28-10 lead, and everybody was thinking like, wow, Tennessee's going to have this one easy, and everybody's going to start putting out cigars in the middle of the 4th period.
Yeah.
And then what happens was that the Alabama comes back, ties it up. Tennessee didn't help it by a couple of goose muffs and you name it, and then Bama missed on that field goal try, and Tennessee got lucky got it downfield and to kick that field goal to win it. And they actually partially blocked that field goal try. And, of course, it went the whirlybird and into the end zone. And, of course, the cigars broke out. As I seem to recall, one of the Bledsoe coaches smoked his share of cigars that Saturday night. But anyway, it was one of those interesting games, one of the more memorable games. Now, of course, let's talk about the SEC.
Well, I mentioned there was two things I was concerned about. The second thing was, can Joe Milton put the touch on the ball that he needs this year?
I think he's improved.
I think he's very much improved. He's took a lot of training classes and things like that with Peyton Manning Academy and all that. So he has likely or should have improved even from since last year. He can throw the ball 80 yards, but the problem is his receivers are at 65.
Yeah.
You can't make
you got to get
lay
it
it
in
up
position.
for him. So I'm hoping that he does that. I think if he does that, and I've said this already before, but I believe if Joe Milton has touch on the ball this year, he's got a wealth of receivers. We got the transfer from Oregon. We still got Brew McCoy. He's got targets. If he stays healthy and performs the way he should, there shouldn't be no reason whatsoever why Joe Milton's name should not be a Heisman finalist.
I would say so. Speaking of Tennessee quarterbacks, Hendon Hooker has been put on what you know as non-injured reserve, basically because they felt his knee needs a little more time to heal up. Basically, that means they can activate him at any time they need to activate him. And also, Josh Dobbs was traded to Arizona, and they dropped the starting quarterback for Arizona. That means basically Josh Dobbs is probably going to have that starting job at Arizona, so that's an interesting thing. Let's talk about the SEC for a minute while we're at it. Georgia has won back-to-back national championships. Do you think Georgia has replaced Alabama as the top dog in the SEC?
People will argue the last two seasons and say that they have, but I don't have to say no. And the reason I say that is because Alabama has had several years of consistent national titles or being in the game or being in the playoff. Georgia, I mean, yes, I'm not saying that they weren't no good, because Georgia was a very good team last year and the year before, but in order for them to replace a team like Alabama as the best in the SEC, they're going to have some consistent seasons where they're... Now, if Georgia goes in for the next 10, 15 years, and they stay in the top three in the nation every week, and they're, in the playoff every year or whatever they decide to do after this is over with, I mean, then I'd say, okay, Georgia has unseated Alabama as the cream of the crop and the best, program in the SEC, talent-wise.
Well, you have to look at it this way. You look at the SEC. You look like in the 1930s. You had Alabama. You had Tennessee and LSU. Those were the top three dominant teams in the SEC. Then in the 1940s, you had Georgia. Georgia as one of the top teams in the nation. They dominated the 40s pretty much. And then in the 50s, you had, well, you could say you had Auburn as one of the top teams. Tennessee could be thrown in there. They won a couple of national championships in that period. Then in the 60s with Bear Bryant, it was the decade of Bear Bryant. Then in the 70s, again, the decade of Bear Bryant, 6 national titles. In the 80s, you had Auburn come back on top. They won 3 SEC titles. Then in the 90s, you had Florida and Tennessee. They were the 2 premier teams in the league. Then in 2000, it started even out. LSU, Alabama, Georgia, those started to get in that. And then of course now you got Alabama since Nick Saban arrived at the capstone. They talk about Nick Saban. He's 70 years old, I believe. Is he going to retire? He technically he probably reached the mandatory age at Alabama, but who's gonna run him off? Who's gonna say it's time for you to leave?
As long as Nick Saban wants the job at Alabama and wants to come to work every morning, he's going to have the job at Alabama.
Absolutely.
Because there's no, number one, he's too old to go to another team and rebuild.
Right.
He's past that. So he's likely going to retire at Alabama.
You're going to have to pay him more than $10 million to get him. And I don't
even if some team did come along and say, hey, we're going to give you X amount, you know good and well Alabama's boosters are going to throw in some more million and be like, no, you can stay here at home. We'll keep you.
You know, I always used to remember a thing I was reading in Bill Battle's book, is that when he was handling Bear Bryant's business affairs after he left coaching, they said he found a letter. He said, this is 1959. He took Tennessee, he took Alabama to the Liberty Bowl. He said, I said, I know you're turning down this 5,000 bowl bonus. You know that back then he was making about $17,000. He wasn't making any more than the college president, because he didn't want to make any more. He said, but we're going to give it to you anyway. $5,000. That's it. $17,000 a year. That's what Bear Bryant was making when he started out, and he never got he didn't make more than $50,000 when he retired a year as coach. Like I said, he didn't care. Now you got these $1 million coaches coming out, and that's such a thing. You got to pay them out when you fire them.
Yeah.
And then you got to pay them out when you fire them. Now let's look about conference realignment here. Stanford and Cal apparently will be going to the ACC. They want to get into the ACC so bad they can taste it.
I thought they missed the deadline.
Well, that apparently something else comes up. That sort of thing. And Florida State missed the deadline for leaving the ACC in 2024. So Stanford and Cal might be going into the ACC. Apparently they were initially rejected, but apparently somebody's changing their minds in the ACC, which is probably the worst thing in the world. Is like, it's sort of like Baylor playing over in Ireland. It doesn't make sense, but that sort of thing. Conference realignment. You look at the Big Ten. They're got all these West Coast teams coming in, which makes about as much sense as I've ever seen. It's sort of like the Ivy League inviting Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State to join them.
It would make a lot more sense to me if I saw Big 12 teams joining the Big 10. I'd be like, okay, well, at least you're close geographically speaking. Mm-hmm. But when you've got Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-4, now, are you Pac-2 now? I don't know if they have any.
There'll be no Pacs sooner or
later. But for them to come over and play on the eastern side of the country, that just does not make any sense whatsoever. And all that is the conferences are trying their best with the marketing to compete with the SEC.
SMU supposedly is also set to join the ACC as well, which just makes a little more sense because that's a little closer. But Southern Methodist University. But initially the reason that they started this conference expansion was the SEC when they expanded to 12 teams in 1992 to have an SEC championship game there, and then went to 14 to get into the Midwest and the Texas market with Texas A&M and Missouri, and then you have Oklahoma and Texas. That's for the money, the big money. Like the Tom Cruise guy said, "Show me the money." This sort of thing. And the thing about it is that can you imagine? Now, this is not far-fetched. In the 1960s and 70s, you had the old Sequatchie Valley Conference. You had those in the Sequatchie Valley, and then you had Stevenson and Bridgeport in Alabama as members of the SVC, even though they weren't members of the TSSAA. Can you see Bledsoe County suddenly aligning itself with Georgia football teams? No, you're not going to see that.
You're not going to see that.
You're not going to see that. It's not going to happen. But with the conference realignments, people are saying it's going too far. It's going too far. You're breaking up the structure as it is to try to get something better, and that's going to hurt. Because let's put it this way right now: is that how many down here watch a Big Ten game, except Ohio State and Michigan?
I don't even watch that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I don't even watch that because I have to be for Michigan in that because I despise Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. About Michigan is that I've always had a thing against Michigan because they stole the Heisman from Peyton Manning. I've always felt that way.
If I didn't have really good friends that were actually from Michigan, that were Michigan fans, I would there would be no reason at all that I would ever say go blue, meaning, you know, be it Michigan. But I just can't. I can't get my mind wrapped around Ohio State. I just can't do it.
Woody Hayes hated Michigan so much that one time his car ran out of gas because he wouldn't gas up in Michigan, and he was about a couple of miles from the Ohio border. He and his assistants pushed the car a couple of miles just to get gas in Ohio.
Oh,
It tells you how badly he hated Michigan. And you know the thing about it is, you know, you look at I used to remember in the 1990s when CBS would show Big East games and SEC games at the same time, and you have all these Big East fans who phone up CBS and says, when are you going to show the SEC game in our area?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lost cause right there.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you how it is. But you know, Bradley, you got a list of these opponents that are playing this. Why don't you read some of those and see what you got here?
One thing that I was bringing up before we went up on the air was the fact that this weekend it's so spread out, because you've got, obviously we're used to Thursday night games and Saturday games, you know, whether it be an early kickoff or even a Saturday night. This year you've got Thursday night games, and usually it's just, you know, a lot. It's more so the smaller schools, small market schools who play on Thursday night. I mean, you mentioned Tennessee's played a few of those, but that's generally speaking, it's the smaller market. Utah's playing Florida Thursday night, so that's going to be they're playing at Utah.
Right.
14th. Utah's 14th in the nation. Florida's unranked, so that's going to be an interesting game on Thursday. Another SEC team, Missouri, is playing South Dakota at 7 p.m. Thursday, same time that Florida is playing Utah. And quite frankly, the only other teams that are major market teams will be Nebraska and Minnesota from the Big 12. But you know that's that. And then on Friday night, which is your high school football nights, you got Stanford playing Hawaii. That's a big game for them. You got Kansas playing Missouri State. That's not a big game for either one of them because
that's not the old border rivalry.
No. Louisville is playing Georgia Tech. That's an ACC game that might have interest, but still, it's a Friday night game, and Friday nights are for high school football, and every football fan knows that across the country. I don't know why in the world they would be playing like that, but then you get into Saturday and you finally see that kickoff with Virginia and Tennessee at 11 a.m. and I am very excited for that. I can't wait to see the Big Orange go back on the field.
We'll let you do a prediction on that a little later.
I'll do that. But you've got Georgia starting off the season with UT Martin. It's at Georgia, 6 o'clock kickoff. And you got Michigan, number 2. They are playing at Michigan against East Carolina. Then you have number 3, Ohio State. They're playing Indiana with a 2:30 kickoff. And Alabama, who's number 4 in the nation, they're playing Middle Tennessee State. And I seen an interview with Middle Tennessee State coach, and they said, "What are you doing to prepare for Alabama?" He said, "We're watching a lot of film. We're watching a lot of Notre Dame. We're watching a lot of," he mentioned another school, and he said, "but we're watching a whole lot of Alabama, because there's just no way to prepare for Alabama. You know, with just the difference in the schools." Number 6, Southern Cal plays Nevada Saturday. Number 7, Penn State is hosting West Virginia. Number 10, Washington Boise State is hosting Boise State. Texas, number 11, is playing Rice. They have Tennessee at 12 on this. I'm not sure what poll.
They're 10th in coaches.
Yeah, I'm not sure what poll this is.
AP is 12th.
But obviously Tennessee is hosting Virginia at Nashville, and they say it's a neutral site, but you're playing it in Tennessee.
It's like playing Notre Dame in Rome.
Yeah, really. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Or Notre Dame Dublin.
And speaking of Notre Dame, they play Tennessee State Saturday, number 13. And then, of course, you have Oregon in action, Kansas State, TCU, Wisconsin, and the top 25 is in action Saturday as well. But Sunday is when typically you have the pro games.
Yeah. The pro games don't start till next week.
Well, not this year.
No.
Because this week we're having Sunday games. There's 3 playing, and one big game is number 5 LSU against number 8 Florida State, and that's a 6:30 p.m. kickoff. That's going to be an interesting game. that's really going to see, is LSU what they claim to be? Because you remember last year Tennessee just laid it to
Yeah,
them.
they destroyed them, and they ended up destroying Alabama, and they played Georgia tough in the SEC championship game. So you never know about LSU, and I say thank God we're playing
Brian
LSU
Kelly
this year.
has got them going in the right direction.
Right.
So it's going to be very interesting to see. And Florida State's coming on too. They're ranked in the top 10 to start the season for the first time in a long time. So they are I wouldn't say they're back, but they have an opportunity this year to prove that they're back.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably not going to be to the success levels of Bobby Bowden that he had in his tenure there, but they're on their way.
Yeah.
They're on their way to that. And then you have a Labor Day game, the last game of this week, of this round of NCAA. Clemson is playing number 9 in the nation, and they're playing at Duke on Labor Day.
That should be an
7 o'clock kickoff. So that too will be a good one to watch on Monday night.
Okay, let's go to prediction here. Tennessee and Virginia, neutral site at Nashville. That'll be 11 a.m. kickoff. ABC and the Vol Network will, of course, broadcast that game. We'll have that game for you. And Tennessee, 24-point favorite. What do you think the score will be?
I'm going to write this down.
I don't know about you writing these things down.
I'm going to write this down
You gotta put it in an
because
envelope.
sure as I don't, you're going to lie about it. Say that I didn't do the...
Where's all those envelopes of the scores we did over the years?
I've got them. I didn't want to embarrass you.
Yeah, sure you did.
But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Tennessee 45, Virginia 17.
Well, I think that's probably a decent score, but I think is that Tennessee will win 42-14. I think what it is, Tennessee will start out strong in the first quarter. We'll slow down a bit in the second, and then in the third quarter they'll pour on some more steam, and we'll win that game. Milton will pass for 900 yards in that game.
I wouldn't mind that.
I wish it, but anyway, let's tell. So it'll be 42-14, I believe, the score. That's what I have. Now let me tell you what happened with Bradley. Now we used to do these predictions, and what it is, he would write it down and put it in an envelope, and I never see those envelopes again. And I suggested T.A. Smith or Jason Real hold on to those envelopes, and we open up at the end of the season, and he never did.
I got to be honest with you. The reason, the viewers out there, the reason that we did not do that is because Mike lost every game that he predicted. And I just couldn't bear to potentially hurt your feelings by showing you that,
you're a preacher,
that I had more correct picks than you did. So I just left them. Them where they were in safekeeping. Didn't even open them up. I hadn't even looked at them. I just knew that I could remember who picked who, and I was like, no, I can't do that to Mike because I'm not that kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
So I just can't show him how wrong he was in all of those, even though I'm telling you that now. But that's the truth. That's the fact of the matter.
Remember, this is on video, so basically is that it can be used in a court of law eventually.
I just couldn't.
Absolutely.
I just can't do it for you.
But anyway, okay, well, of course, Friday night will be, Bledsoe County will be paying a visit to Saddle Creek for the first time, the first ever meeting in football. That game time is scheduled for 7 p.m., and we will have the broadcast for you out here on WAT AM 1110 Pikeville, Tennessee, with pregame beginning at 6:40 p.m. On WAT AM 1110 as Mike and Bradley, and of course Bradley will have to go home and pray to God that forgive him for his sins. So anyway, Friday night, of course, is Labor Day holiday, and of course there'll be a lot of football going on. Tennessee and Virginia Saturday afternoon at Titan Stadium, and of course we want to thank you all for tuning in to this Bradley and Mike's sports scene, or we'll have to rename it Bradley Hargis's The Big Fish Story, as it may be. So we bid you farewell. We'll see you in 2 weeks as we'll have another episode of the Bradley and Mike Sports Scene as you're watching Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18. Good day, everybody.
Got to have the final sign off.
I know you do.
You got to have 3 things. Go Blue, Go Braves, and Go Big Orange.
So that'll do it for here. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Brought to you by Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative in the Sequatchie Valley.